Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Podnuts Pro. I am your host, Marvin B. And yes, I am here in the office on this American holiday right before the 4th of July, our Independence Day. And I was trying to avoid doing any significant work. So I reached out to some good friends of mine who were also working. And I'm going to have them in here real quick as soon as I can get the stuff going here. I am joined by Adam Carpenter and Chad Kempt. How are you, gentlemen?
Good.
Doing well, thanks.
All right. And Chad, I think I heard you've got the youngsters in the office today.
Yep. No, Liliana's here working, earning her keep at 16 months. Work them hard. Got to start them young.
Start them young. Absolutely. All right. And let me see. Oh, we've already got a hello in the chat there, Mr. Cristobal, who is also down here in South Florida, where we are deep in quarantine once again. So it's going to be a sucky Independence Day weekend for us. How's it going for you guys in the Adam in the other part of the country and Chad in yet another country altogether?
So in our county, they're talking about putting phase 1 restrictions back in place. A lot more positive tests. Death rate has gone down significantly, though, so we'll see how that pans out. Right now, we're still doing social distancing, but we don't have the 50% restriction in place anymore currently.
All right, Chad, how's it up there? What's happening?
Oh, everybody's working from home for here. What's allowed and what's happening, I've noticed there's a big distinction there. Some people like us are just being more cautious because we don't have to do otherwise. You know me, Marvin. I'm the kind of guy that likes to live out in the woods and not have anybody around normally. So when you tell me that I'm supposed to stay away from people, it's
you're like, yes,
yeah. So we've we're just continuing with that basically, and we're fortunate that it's a lot easier in a small town and when you have property to do that. I sympathize with those, especially in like Toronto up here. If you live in a condominium, you're going to be around people no matter what. So, but yeah, you can get a haircut now, but it's a big ordeal. You can't walk in, But honestly, everyone's taking it seriously, and they have been since the beginning for the most part. So we've made good progress. And I'm optimistic. We just had Canada Day on Wednesday, right? So if anything bad's going to happen, we'll see it 2 weeks from now. As
a normal cycle.
That because the Canada Day, I imagine it's the same as your 4th of July stuff up here. Fireworks and getting together and all drinking and all that kind of stuff.
I thought you were talking about other stuff, just like on a normal basis. So
well. That too, but the Canada Day is a big celebratory thing, and so for us it was muted.
Okay.
So if cases spike, they're watching to see if anyone was bad, basically.
Well, I'm sure we'll have some stuff. Come on, Florida's setting records every freaking day now with new cases. So
if anyone says anything bad, I just go, well, Florida, and then get a jail free card.
Florida is well represented in the Florida man / Florida woman with the whole mask debate. And if I could find a way to record, my local radio station did a whole song just on mask based on that Palm Beach. It was a town, it was some city council meeting where they were, of course, the residents were complaining, it's our constitutional right not to wear masks. And so there's a whole song that they made up about that. So I got to find a copy that I can, put up there. And
I'm just glad you guys are keeping your reputation intact. Can you imagine if Florida would have led the charge on this? we'd all be very confused. It's
Yeah.
2020. It wouldn't have been that surprising, really. But
Florida, listen, Florida is going to have a major part in all the major news stories. So coronavirus, the election, we've got something coming up for the election.
And if there isn't something major going on, they just make stuff up on the daily just to keep it alive.
I will say this. I heard that you can infect your cat or your dog with corona. Never heard anything about your alligator. So you guys are probably okay there. Your alligators, your pet alligators are safe.
Listen, gators are like the state animal, the unofficial state animal. So don't be talking about our gators.
I've got boots. Gator boots. No pets. Though.
No pets. All right. So, Chad, did you listen to my Canada Day podcast? Did I do it justice?
Marvin, you do everything you do justice. Honestly, it's appreciated, and I really do appreciate when people remember that the memes were great this year. I don't know if you guys saw the 3 days to July 1st.
Oh, you broke up there.
There was a lot of Canada-U.S. memes going on, but
somebody posted on my one earlier, of course, the ever popular America's hat.
Yeah, America's hat. It's interesting times, which just kind of exacerbates everything, to be honest with you. But you know what? It's 2020. Every day I wake up, and regardless of what it is, 2020 does not fail to deliver a new surprise. Whether it's plagues or murder hornets or locust swarming or fires or people in power saying interesting things. It is what it is.
It is what it is. All right. Well, work-wise, as Chad just spun and ran away there.
He said his piece. He's done.
That's right. Canada out. It's what it is. So Adam, so I came into work today basically to take 2 phone calls. So the first one's done, and I have to wait until 1:30 p.m. Eastern to have my second call. And that's really the most important one because that's my largest client that is opening a secondary business. And they were supposed to open before the COVID, and they are now trying to get themselves up and running. Welcome back, Chad. They are trying to get themselves up and running. So now they're scrambling with, hey, what do we need to do to get open? So that's going to be that phone call, even though this is a client that I love in the sense that they don't really question the bills when it comes time to pay them. So I send them the invoices, they pay right away. But 2 or 3 times a year, they question, why are we paying you so much?
Right.
And so this is a time where I have to explain to them and remind them, here's a perfect example. I've been up to this new space 4 times to install stuff. And 2 of the times I went up, things were not ready for me. Or the person that was prepping, for instance, a cable guy, because of the space, they wired half the office incorrectly. And I said, well, if you had talked to me beforehand, we would have gone over this. And they said, oh, well, we thought we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And like, you can pay me to make the trip twice, which in this case, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
And they're paying me whether I do anything or not.
Yep.
So that's the phone call I'm having.
But we always have that conversation with our clients. Look, if it touches the network, call us first. It will go smoother and it will be cheaper. And sometimes you just got to go, if you're not going to learn, this is how it is.
You don't mean to say that like printers show up that you weren't aware of or anything, right? Like that never happens to you guys, does it? That
showed up and been there for a few days.
I had a door access system show up. That was one of the trips I had to make.
A door access, that's
yeah.
Good.
They installed it, and then the installer turns to them and says, well, oh, you want to be able to connect to this remotely. Okay, well, you need a computer and you need remote access to it. So I scramble, get a computer, run it up there, get to the, set it up, put everything on the network, go to install the software. It's offline in the software. I call the door access company, and he's like, oh, well, we found out that on this version, you don't need a software. We can just do remote access through an IP.
It's one of the things. It depends on how much manpower you have. One of the things we used to do when we were smaller, and we had more manpower per customer, was we would just turn sticky ports on everything, or whatever. The Cisco language was sticky ports, and basically nothing could be plugged into the network without us. But the problem was when we started growing, we didn't necessarily have the right guy who could log into a switch and then allow a port if somebody literally wanted to move a computer or something like that. And so we had to drop that policy. But that fixed that. I mean, we had one yesterday where the customer, they did call, which is good, but they called the strangest thing. They were asking for like the WAN IP address and the DNS servers and stuff. It was like they were going to replace a firewall. And I'm like, this customer has a high availability setup with like switches and APs that are managed by the firewall. So that'd be a really funny thing to replace. And they just renewed their service for a year, and like on the the maintenance. And no, it turns out what they wanted was they were either going to put in a router, or we had to give them a wireless SSID and like WPA key or whatever. Those are requests until I literally had an engineer reach out to them and be like, "What exactly do you need?" Yep, they just needed to get on the network. And they didn't even want a static IP. Like they didn't even want, no, I just need to get on the network. Okay.
Wow.
All right.
We typically disable ports, but we don't bind them to a MAC address or anything. If they're unused, we'll leave them disabled.
Well, that's like, I guess that's a happy medium in between. Just for troubleshooting and stuff. We figured we'd loosen it up. Again, it depends on the environment too. And it depends on what kind of controlled access there is to the switch. I'd be a lot less comfortable if I had a switch physically mounted under a secretary's desk, having it open, than if it's in a lock and key server room with a big camera on the door.
Yeah.
And he's out again. And he just drops the mic. It's awesome. So for those of you that are listening to the audio version of this, follow the link in the show notes, go to the YouTube version, and you gotta watch that. It is something else. And I didn't explain this at the top of the show. I'm here on a Facebook Friday because I'm trying to not go home and mow the lawn. Is pretty much what it is.
I should do that today.
Yeah, well, I have to mow the lawn because the nephews will be over this weekend for our holiday barbecue. That has, for some reason, become a tradition.
At your house.
Yeah, at my house. It's a tradition that I didn't get to vote on, so who knows. So, Mr. Kemp, you're back again, and you'll have to go back and listen because it is just perfect timing that you make a statement and drop out. It's
mic drop, guys. I don't know what to tell you. You might have thought it was a technical issue with the browser tab crashing, but no, that was intentional. I just closed it, and now I'm back.
You go. All right. Listen, you got to be dramatic somehow. If you
I feel like the Canadian stereotype could use a little bit of I need to add some flair. So me and my Tim Hortons here dropped out.
There you go. All right. So, what's some good stories that's happened in the last few days for you guys? Any great customer stories? Any great projects you're working on? Any tips, tricks, anything like that?
Well, we're busy, but one of the problems we've had is one of the promises we made to our customers years ago when we started moving to a fixed fee model is working really well for them. Not as well for us at the moment, but that's fine. Like this isn't a gripe or a complaint. It's just kind of a bit of a comment, I guess. It's going to make selling for the next 5 years very easy, is what it's going to do. What if there's a global pandemic and everyone has to start working from home, and all of a sudden your tech support goes through the roof? Do you want big bills in uncertain times, or would you prefer that fixed fee approach where you already know what the budgeted amount is?
So how are you doing your fixed fee? Are you talking about a
per user,
standard per user? Okay. So it's not fully fixed. It's they know what it is. It goes up and down based on the number of people.
Generally, and we like to do it in blocks because I hate changes. So we'll do like up to 45 users, up to 50 users, and then at 40, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're not getting a knock on the door with a bill increase every month kind of thing. We also do break a lot of other stuff out. So we don't do fully inclusive billing. We do like the data is separate. The 365 is separate. We sell the firewall. I've talked to you about this before, Marvin. It's really awkward going and ripping a firewall out of a client. You know, maybe it's our fault for not communicating it well enough, but you know, when they cancel because, oh, this other guy was cheaper, and then they're sitting there with no internet or connectivity because the firewall was included in their contract, and new guy quoted it assuming they own the firewall.
Right.
I just call me non-confrontational, but I'd rather just avoid the whole situation. That said, we have some larger companies where they know exactly what they're doing, and we do firewall as a service for them, especially if they have a lot of branch offices. That's totally fine. One of them, I guess that's something that's up for debate right now. We normally refresh them every 3 years. We just send them a new unit. But due to COVID-19, I don't know that they want to run around and plug them all in, or we UPS them to them and they physically plug them in. So we're going to reach out and say, hey, do you want to just leave everything as is? Fully covered, nothing changes, but you're going to get an extra year on the hardware. Because, you know, do you really want to run around and change it right now? Probably not. So
Right.
We've also been, and Adam, if you have anything, jump in here. Otherwise, I'll blather all day, buddy.
No, I mean, we're pretty much status quo for the moment. Everybody just kind of going along with bare minimum what they can do, trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
What do you see coming out of this? Like we're positioning ourselves right now. We were already doing it, but this is accelerating it. We've really been leveraging what was called M365 Business and now is M365 Business Premium. We've been displacing file servers with SharePoint. We've been moving more to Teams. We've been trying to get people to not use Zoom, GoToMeet, like whatever, just keep it all in Teams. In fact, next week we're doing a training session with some client. I don't know if I want to call it a training session. We're starting to do these, reaching out to them, getting some key people on staff to join a Teams meeting with us. And then we're just going to go through some of the stuff you can do that they probably don't know about and answer some questions about it. Like I'm on a board of directors and they're trying to get people to vote. Well, normally it's like sitting in a room, everyone kind of does the yay or nay and whatever. Well, trying to do that on audio, it sounds terrible. So they've been doing everybody who wants to say no, say no. Well, we're just going to start doing a forum poll, like right in the chat.
Sure.
You know, I don't think you should take technology and look for problems to solve with it, because I think that just leads to frustration. But I definitely think if you have problems, you should use technology to solve them. And I think there's a big difference there, because in the first one, you're putting your sales guy hat on. You're just looking to how much you can shove down people's throats, which might work short term, but long term is going to get resentment. The other one is you're actually helping people do their own jobs better, and therefore it's going to be better for you.
So we have most of our clients had VPN to begin with. Very few users in those offices used it. So what we're finding now is many people are still forgetting, if you can't access something, it's because you didn't connect to the VPN first. Also, most of these people are older and they're somewhat afraid of the cloud. And so they're against SharePoint, OneDrive, those types of things, mainly because they don't understand them. But I think we're going to see a shift more that way and away from VPNs and physical servers where they're not required for software or what have you, because I think in the end it'll actually make their job easier. I think they just don't understand that yet.
No, I think the one of the challenges we had early on, and we still face now, is, well, why is OneDrive okay, but OneDrive is not? Well, because OneDrive for Business is not OneDrive, because it's actually SharePoint. Why, can we not use, I'm not even going to start. I know Marvin doesn't like vendor naming. So why can we not use these 10 other?
Rules have changed.
Oh, the rules have changed.
Rules have changed. We can do whatever we want.
I didn't get the memo. Okay. So why can we not use, Dropbox or Google Drive or all these other things, that basically to us is shadow IT. And, it's educating them on that. And like, well, we've hardened and locked down your tenant, your Office 365 is yours. We back that up. We use Backupify. We're, Datto Backupify. We're backing that up. To some clients, if they're more technical, I'll say, yeah, there is some limitations. Your on-premise file server, we're backing up hourly. This is getting backed up 3 times a day. It's not quite the same, but it's good enough if depending on the risk tolerance. And then the integration, you're talking about making the job easier. When you get this stuff humming along, like we're working on autopilot deployments, and our goal is to be able to ship a customer a laptop. Back to this never seeing them thing, right? Ship a customer a laptop that's enrolled in autopilot, have them turn it on, log in with their 365 credentials, their OneDrive, all that stuff, all boom on there using known folders through Intune. The autopilot deployment can even push like our RMM agent or whatever else. All that's done, and we didn't have to sit there and have it come here. It's a logistic problem. Actually getting them updated and stuff in our shop is not an issue. And you could make the argument that it's better to go see the customers, and have a touch point. I'm not disputing that. But at this point, and maybe there's some people watching that think this is not an issue or whatever. But for as far as I'm concerned, the way things are perceived and the way things are has changed for the foreseeable future. I'm not convinced that come next April or May, we're going to be doing the exact same things we did last April or May. Maybe some people are, I don't know. We also are geographically diverse. We have customers across North America, some in Europe. And I would like to grow that. Not like I want to go target all the Florida businesses, Marvin, don't worry. There's
come on down.
More than enough. I don't know that I can handle them, to be honest with you. That's the, I mean, they're going to, like in the first interview, don't they ask to meet your alligator?
No, we asked what your sunblock rating number is what we do.
I guess what I'm saying is that, there's a certain type of clientele that I like to work with that maybe you don't like to work with. Maybe somebody else. There's a certain type of clientele that resonates very well with my personality. I get along very.
Right.
He's out again. So going down the line of where he was talking, so I am looking at, getting more customers set up with Intune and autopilot and stuff, but not all my customers want that. They want that hands-on presence. They want you coming to the office. They also, the biggest problem is they're not standardized in their software. So for instance, I have a customer that I'm finally doing the Windows 10 upgrade for.
Wow.
And I've got, it's 18 total stations that are being replaced and another 7 that we're upgrading that they were purchased in the last 3 years, and they can just do an upgrade to Windows 10. And part of our last bit of negotiating is to whether we can get them all on the same version of Office.
We have everybody on Office 365.
Yeah, 365 fixes that problem.
Well, but these are the customers where a lot of them will do 365 for the mailbox only, but they didn't want to do the subscription for the software.
We just, we tell them we with a new computer, we just kind of slip in there that it's it's part of it. The trick has been getting them to go to the premium one. What we had was we had a lot of people using E3 for their terminal server or RDS in the office so they get our shared activation. Well, several months ago, Mike now have shared activation as well. So we ran around and all those customers that already had E3, we just switched them all. And, there was a little bit of work involved in getting the activation on their RDS server again. But the upside, the Intune and all the additional, like the ATP, the AIP, it's really not a hard sell if you have somebody that actually cares. If you get that guy that just doesn't care, and just wants email or whatever, yeah, that's tough. But if they care,
or if you get law firms,
or you get, well, Stan would disagree in some ways,
Well, because Stan's in his own little world sometimes.
I hope you're watching, Stan.
Down here in the real world, I've got law firms that. Here's the problem: a lot of them are still on, legacy products. The case management software are still, on-prem server based, and those vendors have not made the move yet. So the customer's like, well, why should I move? It works. And, I'm actually quoting 2 new servers for next month because the client is still going to stay with their legacy software. I actually had another call from a tech who was dealing with a software product that was from 2016. And I had to get them on the phone with my software guru because their database, they thought it had crashed when really it was just full. It reached its maximum limit of 4 gigs,
Yeah.
and the guru was able to help compress that database. And so they're stuck in that model of, well, this is working, let's not fix it. We don't want to go to the cloud. And because they don't have to go to the cloud, they don't.
What version of Office do they have? What's your oldest one? I mean, you're not back to like 2007, are you?
Now, most of them, the lowest is 2010. Most of them are at 2013.
I suppose
And-
most of them don't care that 2010 won't be supported much longer.
Well, and that's how I get around it. I just basically tell them, and these are the customers where if we've done individual licensing for the office, meaning we buy this home and business version instead of, the volume licensing, well, then they just, upgrade to the next home and business license. Most of my law firms now, I'm either saying, look, you're either going to be on the volume license or you're going to be on 365.
Yeah.
And the reason is we have to keep your computers on the same version for compatibility, because they're always complaining about, well, so-and-so sent me this file and it's a little bit different. And I'm like, look, get on the same version of the software.
Yep.
And when it comes time to do upgrades, it's easier. It's everybody at the same time.
Yeah. I will say that Office 365, it's nice for management and whatnot, but the various updates aren't always the nicest, because 2 machines next to each other may not get the update at the same time. So we just had the search bar change, so you got that, and one machine's got it where it's in the title bar, and one's got it in the normal place in Outlook, and you're like, what in the world? Yeah. So it does have some drawbacks.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's and here's the problem with the law firms. Putting them on 365 where their software updates automatically. There was one law firm, and actually 2 law firms, where we couldn't do that because their legacy case management system didn't work with the latest Office 365. So that was another reason we had to keep them on the legacy, versions of software, it's a shame. And that's where, vendor management is going to be one of the biggest issues we have going forward, because Microsoft is, they're, plowing ahead, don't really care. Vendors have to keep up.
Right.
But if vendors don't, the customers are going to be stuck in the middle. And actually, we're going to be stuck in the middle because the customer's going to be looking at us to solve it. And, our answer is going to be, you got to get off that software that's, 10 years old.
You can do a lot of the restrictions with Intune, to be honest. There's overlap with your RMM tool, but again, like we were talking earlier about how I didn't want to rip out firewalls from clients, even if they're no longer my client. For the same reason, I don't like applying certain policies through RMM, because if I remove my RMM, those policies all go away.
Right.
So I would rather put certain things in play. An example being, the folder redirections and stuff like that, or GPO type things, because you're going to lose GPO if you move totally to the cloud, right? There's AAAD, but if you go just to 365 Business Premium, you're going to lose GPOs. But with Intune, like known folders is my example I keep using. You can push the known folder thing, which is your new modern folder redirection using OneDrive. And I don't know, I see the benefits. We've still been dealing with smaller clients with it. I haven't tried pushing a 400-person client doing this. But we've got, I think, some 5-person clients, some 10-person clients. I have a 30-person client that when their server refresh comes up, right now in the office, they've got 80 file print and an RDS server. I'm just going to move it all into, Azure. I'm going to do an Azure RDS server, VPN back to their office, site to site with their FortiGate. Done. And then when they're out of the office, they can use the Windows VPN to connect to the Azure tenant.
Now, do you have clients though, Chad, with legacy software that's 5+ years old or 10 years old for big?
Yeah, so it again depends like how bad we're talking. Like we have some clients where we won't have to put the device on the network. It's so bad. Like if they've got an XP machine that's running some $600,000 CAD device, yeah, you can have that. That's fine. It's just not being plugged into the network, and that works. Now, of course, you've other challenges with that. They're walking back and forth with thumb drives and stuff like that to it. But I would prefer that over having that horrible thing on the network. 2003 servers, we were replacing those with Datto NASs at one point. That's how we got rid of the last few of those. I had a 400-person firm put a Datto NAS in, get rid of their their server, and what they did was they used the Dado drive, the older one, the one that's installed on the device. They did that, so they had basically, it was 200. It was 150 of the users were internal, and then the other 250 were external. And so for the external ones, they mapped all the stuff back to the actual local folders on the NAS with the Dado drive client. Anyway, they kept it all internally, basically. And what happened was the budget people were having no interest in putting a new server and a Cirrus in there. But as soon as we said, hey, we can put I don't know what it was, 10 terabyte, NAS in there or whatever, and it does all the backups built in. The only risk is, of course, if the NAS dies, they only have cloud access temporarily. But
Right.
again, it's been in play. That one's been in play for 3-4 years now. I mean, I shouldn't say no issues, obviously.
Yeah.
But the issues initially were all permission related. They're all good now.
All right.
It was
Hey,
a
Chad, I
little-
want to go back to your fixed pricing, because I had a conversation with, what was her name? Robin Livesey. I don't know if you guys remember the Up Level Systems firewall appliance that I had on a few months ago. So I had to send the unit back. I finished my 6-month evaluation, and obviously I'm not switched over to it yet. And so we had a conversation as to why. And Chad, you mentioned, one of the things about firewalls is you want to be able to, if the relationship terminates, not have them strapped with, what to do, because you've got to rip out the firewall, which for all my customers, anything hardware, I don't do as a service for that very reason. And I mentioned to her that, my clients like to pay for their hardware. They like to know that it's theirs. And outside of, the services that go along with it, for instance, those that have Dado appliances, they've paid for it fully up front. So that way I don't have to worry about ripping it out. But if they get a new, provider, that provider has to be a Dado partner if they want to keep the service, or they keep paying me for the service. But the hardware is there.
Yep.
So that was something where with Up Level Systems, that was a big conversation that I had with her about that. And they are actually, I'm going to be having them back on because they're actually moving to a purchase model as well. And I think a lot of people must have pushed back on that.
Yeah, you know what? Like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I did mention that I have clients that like the firewall as a service, but I feel like the average business owner of that 10, 20 person firm doesn't fully understand. I mean, yet you tell them, but it's like, they're like, well, they're the people that call a PC the CD drive, or or the modem, or like whatever. Telling them that the firewall is a rental, they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then when you take the firewall out, they don't understand why nothing works, because they don't understand what it is. So I like doing the same thing that you're saying, Marvin, unless they do want it as a service. I have no problem delivering everything as a service. It's great for me. It's perfect for me. And if they understand what they're buying, it can be great for them. They don't have to worry about, like with the firewall as an example, the problem with the traditional model of selling a firewall is that I can speak to Fortinet more than I can any other brand. So using Fortinet as an example, they won't even let you process an RMA until you run their little scan thing on it. And that isn't something that a layman can do. You need an engineer to run that, especially if the device is extra borked. So that next business day doesn't start until that's done. And that has to be done before cutoff. So what we do is the clients that are on the managed device or as a service, we just grab a spare off the shelf, pull their config out of FortiCloud, load the config, put it in the UPS box or whatever, Purelator, out the door it goes, and they swap it, put the old one back in the box, and ship it back to us. So it can be great, but only if they know what they're getting. And the data, we're the same way as you. We find when we're replaced by a client, we lost one client in May. That was my thanks for giving them a 2-month reprieve during COVID. The only client that I gave a reprieve to. That was fun. Nice guys finished last or some bad. There's a bad joke in there somewhere, I think. Anyway, they didn't remove all of our monitoring software, and some of it didn't auto remove itself. So we did get a network scan before it was gone, and I saw some like Zycel junk on the network. And I mean, Zycel, Zixel, I don't know how you say that.
Zyzel,
whatever. I'm sure it's a fine small business network. We sold some of their APs to some home users before, and they were pleased with them, and it was fine. So I'm not knocking them as a thing. I'm saying that it's not on the same level as a FortiGate. And this customer had a FortiGate, FortiSwitches, FortiAPs, everything set up. So they ripped it out because they don't understand how to manage and maintain it, and they're probably a lot cheaper than us. And that's fine. I understand. But at least that was the client's prerogative to rip it out, not me forcing it. And with the Dattos, same thing. They own the data that's on the Datto, not me. So that's their Datto, their data. And like you said, the new partner can sign up with Datto. I'm never going to hold somebody's data hostage. You have to, you know, that you have to sign a form releasing the Datto from your fleet. I'm certainly, hasn't been a problem. And if the existing new provider wants us to support that and they want to support everything else, that's fine too.
Yeah.
We're pretty easy going over here.
Yep. The last time when I fired my customer, that's the last customer. Well, did I lose? I don't know if I lost a customer in the last month. I'm still waiting to find out. I'm hoping I lose them. But the one that I fired, it took almost 2 months for that transfer of the data to happen.
Wow.
Because the provider coming in took their time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's not on data. It's all DocuSign now too. Like we generally are on the receiving end more often than not, because we've had situations where the MSP, the MSP that was taking care of the client was basically given an ultimatum and said, look, we're bringing in internal IT. We only want XYZ. And they're like, no, we only sell chocolate cake. We don't sell ingredients, blah, 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 which is totally fine. And so the company was like, out the door you go then. And so then, word gets around that, does anyone know of an MSP that will just do Datto? And our name comes up all the time, because that's fine with me. We took care of it. So we get a lot of those. I say a lot of those. I mean, like maybe 1 or 2 a year, which to me feels like a lot, because it's, it's like, well, that's weird. But we had one client where we got them because their current provider wouldn't take a check. They were like, no, credit card only. We're moving to credit card only. We take payment at the beginning of the month, no checks. They were like, great, we're going to get a new provider then. And then I got a call and they're like, will you take checks before we go any further? And I was like, okay. Like, great, we'll take 4 Dattos. Okay. Where do I ship them?
So we prefer credit card and auto bill, but we'll take a check.
I will take gold. Bullion. I will take. I stopped joking about like sheep and chickens because I had somebody get really excited. They were like, I bet you we can give you a few lame ones in there and you won't even be able to spot them. And I was like, the farm auction is up the street and is every Friday at noon during non-COVID times. So as hilarious as it is, I guess if they brought them in Thursday night or Friday morning, I could exchange them at the auction. But no, my point is that I try not to be difficult. I understand the chocolate cake model. I understand how those efficiencies can drive, more business. If you're operating in a way where you're very aggressively targeting and focusing, our marketing efforts are way too laid back for that, because you have to turn down 80% of the business you come across to get that. And out of that 20%, you're only going to close a percentage of that. So I would rather take 80% of the market, close my percentage of that where it's a good fit. And if we can add value to the customer, they can add dollars to my bottom line. Everybody's happy. Why screw with that?
Yeah.
That is odd that a company, well, let me rephrase that, because I know that I've had situations where, I've had a customer that only wants to pay by American Express or only wants to pay by Discover Card. And there are companies that won't take specific cards, Visa, MasterCard only. And I'm like, why? And they always, well, the fees are too high. You know what? Come on, people, just be able to accept any form of payment that the customer's, willing to pay, even if it, PayPal or Stripe.
Raise your rate a little bit if you can.
It really comes down to that. So we have one client that is a challenge. I will fully admit this. He pays with American Express every time, and every one of our he's an IT manager. So it's basically like, I know if he's asking for hardware that's more than $1,000, it's going over 3 bids. And so if you're willing to play in that space, the margins are going to be a lot slimmer. But once in a while, it works out really well for us, because keeping our foot in the door, like, as long as we have recurring revenue at a client, whether it's a Datto, whether it's 365, I'm willing to get in with some slim margin. Oh, you want to buy 20 laptops and the margins are, hilariously low single digits or whatever? Sure, it's not great, but I'd rather him think of me first than think of the other guy. And we have the recurring revenue. Now, again, anyone watching here who's like a big True Methods fan or whatever, they're going to probably send Gary, we heard this idiot talking on this show. You wouldn't believe what a dumb he is. And you know what? That's totally fine. I'll totally take that on the chin. It's just as long as I'm adding to the bottom line in a positive way, not toxic business relationships. I'm not talking about getting paid to have your client, your staff abused or any of that sort of crap. It seems to work out. The Dados. So I mean, I don't know. You can see my Blue Partner plaque behind us there.
Your bike's in the way.
My bike in the way. Out of all the partnerships, with vendors we have and stuff, this is one that I'm just particularly proud of. So the thing is with this is that, we have different relationships with different clients. So if the client has an IT staff that is similar in size to my company, and they tell me they're going to test their own backups, we train them on how to do that. We give them access so they can do that. They're going to pay a lower rate than somebody where we're testing all their backups. We're responsible for all the restores, and that's just common sense. And so, we've come across some big partners that use alternate solutions for larger clients. And it's, they're like, well, yeah, because we dealt up, they do this and that to get their margin. I don't know. At the end of the day, if you're happy, I'm happy, and we're all, we're making money and the client's not overpaying. Like, everybody wins. I don't understand why you wouldn't want more of that.
Right.
So now if they're managing part of their backup, do you have some sort of agreement that says, hey, if this doesn't work, it's your problem?
Well, yeah, no. So the agreement, of course, there's all the, we're not for anything, right? But the thing is that the bottom line is, like, so we're still monitoring the tickets. So tickets come in every day. We use Manage, and so with Datto, we have the API integration, and so tickets get opened. Yeah, my guys look at them. And one of the I would say here's an example of a challenge where this doesn't work well. This doesn't work well if you're in hyper growth mode and you're adding staff constantly, because we have a lot of, that client. Well, with that client, don't call them. Just, there is a lot of that. That machine, that's a laptop that's, backs up once a month and they don't care because they have a backup of it. That sort of stuff happens. And I again, we are slow and steady wins the race over here. I've got staff who's been with me for over a decade, like multiple employees. I have, we don't hire fast. We're very careful about hiring.
But you're fast computers.
We are fast computers, like fast service, not fast growth. No, and I mean, like from a revenue standpoint, I'm happy. Like, I'm not trying to, be an acquisition target or anything here. I'm just trying to live my best life, And as long as I'm able to do that, then I'm happy. So those are the downsides.
Right.
You would consider it to be, it's all Datto, but some of the sites aren't standardized. But yeah, to answer your question, if we see something failing or screenshot failing, yeah, we try to adjust it. If we can fix it without bothering the customer, we do that every time.
Sure.
All right, Chad, I'm going to need to cut you off because I want to be happy too. And I think we're losing listeners by you talking so much. So Adam, I need you to jump in with the topic.
Unfortunately, he's got way better stories. It's pretty much status quo. Not much new going on here.
Back to Chad.
No, I'm here from the Canadian. I'm sorry. I'm too depressing over here. No, so Adam, okay, well, here then let me throw something at you. Maybe we can have a conversation about it. So when this situation cools down, what are you going to change?
When Rona's gone?
Yeah, I don't even mean gone. That's the thing. There's no expiration date.
Yeah, Rona's not leaving.
Rona's not leaving. I don't know. Right? We could be talking 6 months or 2 years from now. I don't know. What are you going to change, or I don't know how many employees you have, but are you thinking? You were talking earlier about some of the space you have. Are you thinking less space now? Are you going to see people less? Are you feel more? What are you going to do to?
For me, I'm just a single tech. Work from home most of the time. We use a co-working space if we need it, and we use a mailbox there. So space for me won't be different. We're doing a lot more remote support now, as everybody is. But I like the one-on-one interaction. That's not to say I go to clients every day, but at least once a month I like to make the appearance, and they seem to like it too. So I think we're going to go back to I'm going to try to go back to what was as close to my normal as possible. I don't see a lot of change there, other than we're going to push a lot more cloud focus for solutions rather than on-premise.
And ones you're going to resell, or just in general, you're just going to try to drive them to?
primarily resell Office 365 and use it and get a lot more out of that product rather than here's your Office suite.
Do you think your clients, I guess, so I didn't know you were Solotech. So then spinning that around, how about your staff or your clients? Do you think you're going to see clients that are going to downsize office space when they're hiring people? Are you going to be going to houses? Like, what do you think that's going to look like?
I think most of them are going to keep the space or similar space, but I think what we're going to see is a lot more work from home be as an option. I don't think they're going to be stuck to the office as much, but I don't think it's going to be half the people work from home every day.
Yeah, and that's the big unknown. I don't know if anyone's going to permanently, like, I mean, everyone talks about it, but I don't know. We're hiring somebody right now, and I've been toying with this for weeks. Do I have him sit in the office by himself? Like, we're in the office, but no one else is. Do we have him sit here with us? I think I'm going to have him here for one day, and then I'm going to send him home. I think is what I'm going to do. We have a very extensive hiring process for criminal background checks and all that stuff because we do some DoD type work. But we're giving him a lockdown computer. All the stuff's on the lockdown computer. All of our sessions are audited. If you make a remote connection from here to a client's machine, the whole session's recorded and audited. So I can pull all that up. So,
and I know people are doing that. People have done that. My concern, if I was that employee coming in, I think it takes a lot longer and it's harder to get the feel for the office and the other people and the interaction and the culture, I guess.
Another thing we're going to do to try to address that is I'm adding a new, we're heavy Teams users over here. So I'm going to add a Teams channel called Water Cooler. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to encourage something I never would have encouraged previously. And I'm going to encourage people jumping into video chats throughout the day once in a while, especially with the new guy, just to kind of get to know him, and that sort of thing. And if they're not doing that, then I'm just going to set dedicated time and we'll get in there. And I'm not talking about just, the morning huddle type of thing. I'm talking, just, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I have some staff that live in by themselves. And I've been concerned about them since the start of this. Them getting out of the house and seeing people was coming to work. So there's definitely challenges. But looking long term, like I'm thinking, we could we could have our space. Like you're using those shared workspaces. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking we can have better space for when you're here, rather than having more space just to have physical desks for everybody.
Sure.
Where are you at, Marvin? Are you considering bringing in more people? I know you had some people, you didn't have people. Where are you at?
I am still on the fence as to whether I'm going to have a full-time tech in-house. I've got the space to where it's not a big deal. My concern is really going to be clients that are now evaluating what they're going to be doing going forward, because some of them, their employees are actually saying, I want to work from home more. But they still need to have a dedicated space at the office. They still need to have that, those interactions. I was at a client last week where they just flat out said, look, we are inefficient working remotely. And I had another client who's like, we're more efficient working remotely. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but the support is going to change. And that's where we have to now look at, I had to add additional cost for all the remote workers because we had to put on our monitoring software on those machines to make sure that they're clean, they've got the virus protection, they've got the web protection and all of that. So the customers right now are okay with the additional cost. It's going to be in 6 months. Are they still going to be okay with that additional cost? So that's kind of where I'm looking at is to what do I need to do to prepare for those clients that are going to start to make those changes.
Yeah, that's exactly been the issue over here. And when you look at it, everything is temporary. It's a lot easier. And Adam, you were talking about building the culture, and that's one of the issues is that you're using the culture and the relationships you've built over the last however many months or years with these people. You then go remote totally, and you bring on new people. How do you get them into the fold? From a client standpoint, I don't know about you guys, but I have a large, not a majority percentage, but I have a large percentage of clients that I've never met in person, ever. Don't know what they look like, couldn't point them out of a crowd. I've talked to them on the phone. A lot of people prior to this didn't like doing the video meetings. I don't know if it's because they didn't like it or because they're just not used to it or set up to it. When we send out meeting invites, it's with Teams, and there's a dial-in number, and we get a lot of people to just dial in, and they're, so then we've sold them solutions, never met them. So for me, it's not too weird to do that, but it's the internal people that I'm having more of a challenge with. That said, if your processes are in place and you have documentation, when I pull up the tickets that you've worked on, either you're doing them right or you're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's pretty simple, whether you've been here for a day or 10 years.
Sure. And I've had corporate jobs where, I'm in Iowa, and we had office in one in San Antonio, one in Houston, and we used Google Hangouts, and we had meetings weekly. So at least you do have a visual interaction with them, and I think that brings a lot to it.
There's things you actually like. I mean, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but there's certain interactions you're able to avoid this way. The old cubicle peak. Hey, right when you're in the middle of something, and then you just totally hose that guy. Whereas if you send him a message, maybe it takes him an extra minute to reply, but you didn't break the guy's concentration when he was just about to finish it. Some people just don't like being near other people for a variety of maybe even hygienic reasons. Like I can think of a laundry list of pros on to play devil's advocate, but I just don't know. I think it's interesting. It's not boring. Life is definitely not boring.
So do you guys, on a somewhat different angle here, what if people start working from home, let's say permanently? Mm-hmm. What do you have anything in process? What are you going to change for security wise? Because we don't own that network.
Yeah. So that's the thing. All our machines, though, I won't let them use their home PC.
Right.
We're not having the Twitch streaming, Steam gaming machine to work.
So you won't let them use their personal machine to remote into a session.
You're talking about my employees? No, employees use their work issued laptop or desktop or whatever.
Okay, but that's your employees,
right?
What about a client?
So we've got a policy for that. So if they're on their home PC that is not managed by us and they are not willing to get a company PC for that user, then we use the FortiGates SSL VPN portal. So they go to the website, log in. It's got a 2FA option on there, and then they're just presented with, their desktop. Click that, they can launch it. Downside is they can't print. Everything else they can do can't print. Exception to that rule, where it gets a little murky, is do they get to use Teams on their home PC?
So right now we're similar to what Marvin's doing, where they're using, a lot of people have desktops in the office, so they're using personal computers at home with our same SolarWinds RMM software and all of our management pieces on that. But I think, and that's because it was, okay, what are we going to do? We need to get this done, something working now. But I think going forward, we're going to try to do a policy where it's got to be a company-owned machine.
So the counter to that is, so if that's, again, that is not what we want, right? But that is what you guys are saying. That's what we did. Then it's, okay, if they have a company-issued laptop, now we're setting it up with, FortiClient, so they've got a proper VPN. We're doing sign-on to the VPN before Windows sign-on, so they're getting their full local office experience, like at the office experience remotely. Everything's on there. Everything's great. Everybody's happy. That's the ideal. We had one customer who has about 30 employees or so. They ordered about 30 laptops 15 in March when they thought it was going to see how it goes. And then in April, when it got worse, they ordered the rest. But yeah, if they had used personal machines, that was our thing, because I can't speak to other firewalls again. In fact, I know Meraki does not support this because there's no way, like, it's a browser. It's like a Java pop-up thing. I don't know if it's Java, whatever it is. It's totally isolated from the home network. It's not on there at all. That's why you can't print. You can't print. Other than printing, though, you can do whatever you want.
So I believe, and I'm very not familiar with Meraki, but I believe they have a small appliance that you can use and you can plug in, which would somewhat help. But
it's the same problem, though. It puts you on the work network. I don't want that home PC connected to the work network. So my portalway prevents the PC itself from joining the network. It's just a browser window. and it's worked. Like, this isn't some idea I had. Like, we've got this deployed to hundreds of people, and it worked, and is working to this day. But like I said, so it solved our issue with security. So again, if they have a keylogger installed in the machine or whatever, that's where the 2FA is going to come in. I mean, I don't know how bad you want to assume a home PC is full of malware and whatever. But yeah, we will install, if they want the security software and the patching and stuff installed on it, I don't care. The problem is I'm not letting it join the network unless I can apply all the policies to it. And I mean, to not have local admin and not be able to install software on your home PC, right. I just feel that's a bit like, I feel like it's crossing a line, so that's my opinion. That's
right.
Well, it is tough. I mean, I had a couple of situations like that where company owned machines, but they give it to the person, and the person sets it up the way that they want, and then we don't have the password and stuff like that. So that's why I'm like, okay, well then it's not really company owned, is it?
No.
Right.
But I don't know if you guys know. Well, you guys probably do know this. When you join a PC to Azure Active Directory, by default, it makes the user a local admin. That is the default behavior. So what's interesting is that if you're going to go with that model and you're going to leave it more open so that it's kind of got that weird, they can do stuff on their device type of feel, you have to really control the data. And that's where I was talking about Azure information protection stuff. You can make it so you can't forward stuff. You can make it so you can't copy it. That's how you address that. It doesn't live on the device. It lives in the cloud, and it's accessed securely however you access it. Anyway, that's the direction we're going. I'm trying not to fight it. Marvin, I thought honestly that, me and you talked for years ago, I thought we'd be still selling SBS right now. I mean, I was one of the guys that was like, oh, no, on-premise Exchange. That just seems like I was talking out of the wrong end. You know what I mean?
I think we all were. And it was, once you got into that funnel, it was easy for us, you know, and I was hoping it would stay for a while as well. And to be honest, in my world, I'm still hoping for on-prem servers for another 10 years.
We have them, but what I don't want is I don't want to get shoehorned into that. And I mean, again, like, it's different with staff because I have to tell them which way I have to drive their training and everything like in a certain way. I don't want to tell them to be these on-premise specialists unless we're only going to focus on larger clients. I see the on-premise stuff sticking around longer for bigger clients.
Yes.
So those small clients, and that number is going up. Like, first it was 5 users and it's 10. We still have some clients that don't want their data in the cloud, like you were talking about, Adam. Yeah, we've deployed 3 or 4 physical servers in the last 3-4 months for a QuickBooks desktop and stuff like that. Sure, that's fine. I'm not saying it has to leave.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't want to go in bidding on jobs and be losing because we're dinosaurs.
Right.
So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Actually, we met with a prospect, and the large MSP in our area is actually kind of stuck in the past, and that's why this 200-person company was leaving them, because they didn't want to do Office 365. They didn't want to do anything like that, and they didn't want to move forward, and so they were willing to lose the client.
The MSP didn't want to do that?
Yes. The MSP is stuck in the past.
Chocolate cake. That was not one of their ingredients.
Cake. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, and you know what? If they're willing to lose 200-person client, then obviously they're doing fine. We'd like to think. I'm just saying, I just think it's very important. I think we're past the word cloud being a thing. Now it's more like we're talking about 365, or we're talking about, this or that. And it's no longer just things like broken, terrible implementations of accounting software. Not naming any names, QuickBooks. It's everything. So anyway, that's the direction we're going.
Yeah, QuickBooks, gotta love that. So anyway, look at here in the chat, Josh Lieberman popping in there. Hello, Josh. Stuck at the office. You're not stuck at the office, Josh.
You're living your best life, Josh. Let's be honest here.
Oh my goodness gracious. All right. I made some notes down here, but we've gone so far off the trail that going back to them is not going to make any sense. So, but I will say this. So I just got a podcast set up with a gentleman from Forrester. And the reason is because they've got a bunch of reports out that are talking about what the future for MSPs might look like coming out of the Rona. And there's reports out there that MSP should expect to lose 30% of their business based on the predictions. So there's a whole report that I'm going to go through and dig through and ask questions, and we're going to have somebody on there to talk about how they came to the numbers and what MSPs were polled and that sort of thing. So it's going to be interesting to talk about all of the changes that we're going to have to adjust to. And I mean, it's not just MSPs. Look, everybody's going to have to adjust. Solo techs, computer repair shops, independent consultants, anybody that's got certain stacks that aren't going to translate because Teams is here now. People that were anti-Teams, Microsoft got their hooks in with giving their, 6 months of free Teams. So people are going to want to do that. The M365 that you mentioned, chat, that's a change as well that's going to come in. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments that will happen. So
I agree. The 30% probably represents a disproportionate amount in certain industries. If you guys specialize in hospitality, tourism, or restaurants, I would be surprised if it wasn't higher.
So speaking of that, so I don't have any customers in that space. My customers, as I mentioned, mainly law firms who all consider themselves essential. So none of them shut down. I've got some architects. I've got medical offices. So not much of a change there. Hospitality down here has taken a huge hit.
Yeah.
So for customers that, or MSPs or computer places that focus on those industries, that's gotta be hard.
Right.
So either you're going to see those MSPs starting to come from your clients, like you, Marvin. I also focus on the vertical of essential business. The other MSPs, when they lose those clients, they're going to need to make it up somewhere. So they're either going to come looking for jobs or come looking for clients. I guess if that's the case, it's going to really shake out the industry one way or the other.
Well, that was the other thing that I wanted to get to on a panel discussion as, what are we going to do with all of the techs that are displaced? Because they're
hiring one of them. That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, you are, because you can, but there's going to be a huge portion that can't.
Right.
It's like anything. Do you remember during 08, 09? That's literally what happened then. All those corporate jobs all got shook out. And then a lot of them started their own shop and did this and did that.
You know what? But that was a little different. I think that back then the industry was overstaffed. I think there was so much money floating around in the tech industry that people were being hired
You don't
and
think
not required to work. I mean, there were a lot of people that were, and here's the thing. There are a lot of people that thought they were network engineers that were really desktop technicians.
we still see that though? We have people out, like, remember I said we work with a lot of larger clients. We have a lot of people out there where they plug in keyboards and mice and stuff and monitor swaps and I'm not disparaging them. I mean, but like there is a lot of,
and they're making what, 50, 60,000, and then they, get displaced and they want to come work for us.
then
I'm not going to pay a desktop technician that kind of money.
No.
Yeah.
No, I agree. This is what I'm saying. I agree. It's a shakeup. I just, you're not wrong. I don't know. Are we going to see mass? There's deficiencies in other industries. Like we're always short of tradespeople and stuff like that. I don't know how it is down. I don't know. Is it different per state as far as like retraining programs and stuff? We have government assisted retraining programs here. So like, if you decide you're no longer have a job, whatever, you want to be a welder, there's a program that'll get you to go become a welder.
No, not down here. No, it's
every man for himself down there kind of thing.
no. Yeah, government doesn't care. I mean,
I was trying to skirt around, but I guess so. Like that's the sort of thing. It's an option. If tech is, I don't know that tech's not going to be the thing. I think it's just the problem is that 10 years ago, Marvin, I would have asked you what you do on a daily basis. It probably would have been different from today. 10 years before that, it definitely would have been a lot different than today.
I mean, the industry will,
right? So
yeah, the industry will change and the jobs will change, but you're right. We're going to have a huge, dump of technology, personnel to some degree. And I don't, it's how, is there enough space in the rest of the industry to absorb them again? Or do we go through, like you said, in 08, 09, where everybody tries to go independent and, we have, trunk slammer heaven, that are out trying to take our business, and we have that whole debate again.
Well, I think you're gonna go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think we're gonna have a lot of the people. I was just thinking about this that are just doing break fix. I think they're gonna be hit the hardest because you got all of these people that are either reduced work or as businesses start to, unfortunately, we're gonna have a lot of businesses close no matter what vertical market they're in, right? Regardless, outside of IT. So you're going to have a lot of that. So a lot of people aren't going to be using these break fix shops anymore because they can't afford to take their machine in. They're trying to conserve money, what have you. So I think if you're doing some sort of recurring revenue, you're going to be better off. Again, that depends on what market you're in as well. Like, we don't have a vertical. We work with pretty much every type.
The thing is, though, like when you look at it, what's interesting about this particular situation we're dealing with right now, compared to 08-09 as an example, is in 08-09, we had an economic problem. We had people that wanted to work but couldn't. Here we have people that are being told they can't work and they can't go out. So one of the things that's really been a big shift is people haven't been spending money the same way they would have. Not because they don't have the money, but because they're just not. Like, you couldn't go to the movies. I'm generalizing here. You can't, So these activities, this economic activity, it just got paused. Anytime they've opened anything up, though, I'm seeing huge lineups.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of doing business is higher, but there's been new industries created. Like, if you were in the business of installing plexiglass shields, I don't even know what the heck that is. I don't know if that's a glass business or whatever it is. But if you did that, I bet you had work for like infinite work in the last while. Yeah. Maybe you didn't do that before, but you started it up. Like, I think there was, if you're willing to hustle, I think there's money to be made. I just don't know. I just don't know what it's going to look like overall, but I don't think it's as doomy and gloomy as some people think it's going to be, unless you're the guy who owned the restaurant or the bar. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you own a bar, there's a guy up here in Toronto who owns 34 nightclubs. Wow. And he stopped paying his rent. I read an article in the paper. He stopped paying his rent, I think March. $2.4 million a month is his rent. He's like, yeah, I did well, but how long can anybody pay $2.4 million a month in rent when there's no light at the end of the tunnel?
Right.
So, those aside, but think about it too. How much of a trickle effect are we going to see? These places, like these nightclubs and stuff, they're not really MSP hotspots. A lot of these affected industries, even the salons and stuff like that, they have like a computer, but they're not heavy tech places. Right. So the question becomes, who are their vendors? Are their vendors your client? Are their vendors going to downsize as a result? I don't know. I'm not an economist. I just like to keep a close watch on these things.
Yeah. Well, that I will ask some of those questions when I have that gentleman on the podcast and see where we go. We'll probably stimulate some other discussions too. I know that one of the Facebook groups, they've been having meetings once a day for the last, 3 months about all of this. So I have not, I participated in one early on. I just haven't lately, but maybe I'll pop in one of those and see where we are. All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm getting the sign that I need to pop off of here and go get ready for my 1:30 call. So going to need to sign off here. So anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't get to that needs to be said?
No,
just thanks for having me on, Marvin. It's always fun. I thoroughly enjoy these talks with you and whoever else is on the panel.
All righty. And Josh just said, yes, Everything MSP has now, they are twice a week. That is the group that has been having the daily discussions since the COVID started. So everybody should know about that group. If you are a managed service provider, IT professional, computer repair shop, Everything MSP on the Facebook is a place where you can go. Wednesdays and Fridays at noon. That's why you were late coming here, Josh. I see. Okay. All right, Adam and Chad, thank you very much for coming and hanging out with me on this U.S. holiday, even though we're stuck in the office.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All right. And Chad, did you have fireworks? Do you guys have fireworks for your Independence Day?
Canada Day, we didn't bother doing any ourselves, but our neighbors had lots going off. So
Adam, what about you?
So normally we do. Most of them are canceled, but I think we might do some of our own.
No. So down here, Broward and Fort Lauderdale, Broward County and Fort Lauderdale City, they're not doing the big public ones, but they are going to have displays throughout the city. So you can hopefully step outside of your house, either the front yard or the backyard, and see something from somewhere. So you just won't obviously get the big crescendoing music effect. So we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for popping on short notice and having a chat here. I want to thank those of you that were attending live and watching us. And for those of you that are listening to this on audio, be sure to check the show notes to where if you want to go back and watch the video, you can. You can watch Chad's mic drops
Epic.
that he did. What was that? And be sure to check the note for links to the shows that you can go and see over at podnuts.com and go back and listen to some of the other great stuff we have. So that's going to do it. Again, guys, thank you very much. And for everyone else out there, God, I can't believe I'm mumbling through this. Dry mouth. Until next time, holla.